Hello everyone, in this video we'll be solving problem 3194, minimum average of smallest and the largest elements. The problem statement is, we are given an array nums of n integers where n is even. We need to record the minimum average that we can build using two numbers, which is maximum and minimum in the input nums. And once we calculate the average using the two numbers, we can't use the same numbers again. For the next average, we need to use the next smallest and the next largest element. We need to continue the operation until we have figured out the minimum average of all of the numbers. For instance, in example number 1, if we start applying the procedure, we need to first figure out the minimum and the maximum numbers, which are 15 and 1. Calculating the average of these two numbers will give us 8. Excluding those two numbers, the next biggest and the next smallest number in the array are 13 and 3. The total is 16, giving us the average of 8. We'll repeat the same operation until the input array is empty. And once we have recorded all of the averages for each pair, we'll return the minimum one, which is 5.5 in this case. When we were running the iteration number 3, the numbers were 7 and 4, giving us the total of 11, and the average is 5.5. I hope you were able to understand the problem statement. This is an easy problem and it would not take too much time to understand how we can solve it efficiently. Let's switch to whiteboard and discuss the solution. Because we are dealing with the minimum and the maximum number in the array, the first step we should do is to sort the array. This will help us make sure that the first element in the array and the last element is minimum and the maximum amongst all of the values. After applying the sort on this input, the array would look something like this. Now we can use two pointers where the first pointer will be pointing at the minimum value, that is the value on the far left, while the second pointer will be pointing at the value at the far right, which will give us the minimum and the maximum value. And use the two numbers to calculate the average. And instead of saving all the averages for all of the pairs, we'll use a variable minimum average to record the minimum ones amongst all of those. After comparing the far left and the far right values, now we need to compare the next smallest and the next biggest number. So we'll increment the first pointer and decrement the second one. We'll apply the same operation of adding the two values, calculating the average and comparing it against the minimum average. Let's run a couple of simulations to understand how will this work. As discussed, we'll use two pointers to solve this problem. I will be pointing at the smallest element while j will be pointing at the largest element. After applying the sorting, the array should look something like this. We'll start off with I pointing at the first element while j pointing at the last one. We'll add 1 and 10 and calculate the average, giving us the total of 11 divided by 2. The average is 5.5. As it is smaller than the current minimum average, we'll replace the value with 5.5. For the next run, my I will be incremented by 1 while j will be decremented by 1. I is pointing at 3 while j is pointing at 9. The total is 12 divided by 2, giving me the average of 6. As 6 is greater than the current minimum average, we will not replace the value. We'll continue forward by updating our pointers. This time my I is pointing at 5 while j is pointing at 8. Adding 5 and 8 gives me the total of 13, and when divided by 2 gives the average of 6.5. As 6.5 is greater, we will not update the minimum average. We'll stop the iteration here as we have iterated through all of the pairs in the array and return the minimum average, which is 5.5. With this solution, our time complexity is O of n log n, as we were sorting the array to do the calculation, and the space complexity is O of 1, as we are only using these two pointers and the minimum average variable to maintain the minimum average that we have calculated so far. I hope you were able to understand this explanation. Let me show you how we can implement this using C#. Here is the C# solution. I start by sorting the array in the ascending order and then initialize my variables, that is the minimum average, the left pointer and the right pointer, and setting the default values. Following that, I am starting a while loop until my left pointer is less than the right pointer. Then I calculate the average of the two numbers that the left and the right pointers are pointing. If the value is less than the minimum average that we have calculated before, we will save it in the minimum average variable. and then update our pointers. So increment the left pointer and then decrement the right pointer. After the while loop is complete, we are returning the minimum average variable. This code, when submitted on LeetCode, beats nearly 72% of the submissions in terms of runtime and 100% in terms of memory consumption. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you were able to understand the explanation. The link to the code is available in the description below. Feel free to check that out, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.